Hi there, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Three Grumpy Simmers. My name's Novawing24, and I am joined once again by my two fellow other grumpy brothers. I am joined by Sergio from helisimmer.com,
Hey guys.
and we are joined by the purple hat wearing, still waiting for the F-14 Tomcat, Belgeode.
And I've got my Tomcat coffee cup. This
I
is a gift
I
from
need
a YouTube
I
viewer.
need that mug. I need that mug. Oh, sundowners all the way. Anyway, okay, so we are here. So first off, sorry for the bit of delay between episodes, folks. We did have another episode. Unfortunately, technical gremlins between getting stuff around corrupted the file, so we didn't get it. We were going to come back and sort of rejoin and sort of do and sort of redo the episode that we did. However, something has come up that has made at least this particular simmer very, very grumpy, and I've wanted to bring it to my fellow grumpy simmers to discuss the topic because it's something that actually seriously concerns me. It genuinely seriously concerns me about the state of not only us as a community, but the extended parts of our community, which include all the developers and all the retailers. Um, I'm going to start off by saying that this is in part around the Flight Sim Store Saga. Now, for those who might have been hiding under a rock for the last year, there's been Flight Sim Store was one of the leading flight simulation resources for people to purchase new content from. For a long time, they were the home of Orbix before Orbix branched out and created their own store, Orbix Direct. But they were the sole source of Orbix for a really long time. But otherwise, they've always provided retailers with a dynamic platform that they can actually sell their products on. Great, very accessible. All the rest of it, very good. At the start of this year, they started having a few problems. There was a few server issues, which meant that a few people weren't able to access their paid content. This then slowly escalated. We've started to hear small reports and rumors of developers not being paid and content very slow to be updated. I remember one of the first major reports that was taken seriously was when Dino Cataneo actually sort of said that he'd sent through multiple updates of his products through to Flight Sim Store and they hadn't made it through to the end user.
Hmm.
So there'd been issues sort of surrounding it, and nobody was quite sure what was going on. However, within the last sort of 3 months, or within the last 2 months, multiple developers, including Dino Cataneo, Drizeki Designs, Just Flights, Milviz, and Pilots, have all basically turned around and said, do not buy from Flight Sim Store because they have not been paid as the developer selling their products. We've got customers who are there are multiple reviews on the website now which say the customers paid for a product and they're not getting it. So I want to preface this by saying that I want to start by saying that we don't know what's happening. We don't know. There's been radio silence from Flight Sim Store for most of the year, so nobody has any idea what's going on. Now, what has been happening is that all the developers have been basically going through to customers and saying, look, you've purchased our products, for whatever reason, you now can't access it from Flight Sim Store, you can't get updates, so let's move you over onto another platform. So I've got multiple products that purchased Flight Sim Store myself, so I've got emails from Rex saying, bring products over here, from Dino sort of bringing it over here, and they all these developers are finding ways to bring their content over to other platforms, usually their own stores, and sort of just be able to go. So so you as the end user still get to access the product that you've paid for, which is great.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm.
Which is fine, and I don't know. I'm sort of going to throw the floor open to here, if guys. Do either of you have stuff from Flight Sim Store? Have you experienced this yourselves?
No,
I haven't bought from Flight Sim Store for probably about 2-3 years, and I don't even remember what it was. I think it might have been the one Key West scenery that I use as like my testing grounds whenever I have a new aircraft in P3D FSX. But yeah, that was like almost 3 years ago. I haven't really done anything with them. I forgot they existed until this all blew up.
Yeah. Um, So and it sort of makes sense that you move the people over to another digital platform, and that's fine. And Sergio, I'm assuming that's sort of standard business practice in the software world. That sort of if one store goes down, you move everybody over to a different platform.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Then it's pretty it's the way you actually treat your customers, right? It's customer support.
Yeah, it's customer service. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. If you have a piece of software that you have purchased and they have license for that piece of software, it's normal that you can transfer that off to any other store, usually free of charge.
Yeah, and
Usually
and
free of charge.
and that's something. Well, I mean, Microsoft does it. We still, for those who purchased the back in the day, if you purchased FSX from the online, from online or offline, you could transfer the license around your Windows store and all the rest of it. You can still get it.
Yep.
It's a bit of a rigmarole to get it sometimes, but you can still get it. So anyway,
It's not very normal. It's not very normal to actually do that. Let me just say this, but we're talking about a very strange and a very new situation, right? In which people simply lose the way to access the software they have purchased. So this is an exception. This is something exceptional. I just want to clear this off because some people might think that it's easy for you if you are using a store A. It's easy for you to transfer to store B. We're talking about an exceptional situation in which a certain store, for some reason, stop responding or stop giving you access to your products. Okay, guys, don't come and ask and tell us that for some reason any store out there is not allowing you to transfer.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to transfer. Yeah,
exactly. So this is very much an extenuating circumstance. Exactly. This is not something that would happen normally. So
it's an exception, not a rule.
So all these developers are moving all these people over onto new storage platforms or access platforms so they can access the content they paid for. And kudos to every developer that's done this. Really thank you for doing that. Thank you for showing your commitment to the community and your commitment to your customers. Because as Sergio said, it is part about customer service and your commitment to the community to actually do that. That's great. Now, what got me really grumpy was an email I received last week. So people who follow my channel for a while, you'll know that I use the Pilot's HD Ultimate Terrain Mesh. I've been using Pilot's mesh products for many years in the ESP platforms, and I really love their latest iteration because it supports all of the extended ESP platforms, including Flight Sim World as well. So that's why I really enjoyed it. It's a great product, and I purchased it through Flight Sim Store. Now, I got an email from Pilots, and I might be glancing over the side screen here because I actually have the email in front of me. So it's an email address to FS Global user, Terrain Mesh user, and Flight Sim Store customer. Where basically they go, look, they acknowledge the issue, they haven't received payments either. There's updates, and they want to help the user out to actually be able to get access to the content again and move them over to a new platform, which is fine. Again, all other developers doing that's great. What's interesting is that they're moving them over to Sim Market. Now, again, no problem. I've purchased many products from Sim Market previously. No problem. Whatever. Don't care. It's the next part of the email that concerns me, which says that you have to, and again, this sounds normal. So you go onto the Sim Market page, you log into your account, make sure you use the same email as that you got from Pilot Store. That's fine because that matches the database. No worries. You use a coupon code that they've sent me in the email. Yep, no worries at all. And then you have to pay.
Wait, what?
Yes. So the original product. You
have to repurchase.
You have to repurchase. Now it's a reduced cost, but you have to repurchase. And I'm just like, WTF, mate? Like, seriously? What? I'm like,
when you say reduced cost, how much is the product itself that is in question versus how much are they asking you to pay?
So the product is normally $80. Wait, I should have brought this up on the screen. My apologies. Let's have a look at okay, let's go secure.sim market. Okay. Please hold, folks. I'm never going to be. I am one that always says fact check. So you know what? I am going to get my facts right before I do this.
Take your time. Drew will just sing a song.
No, I'm drinking my Tomcat juice here.
I'll just do some elevator song.
Oh my
Really,
God!
really, really.
No, 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 no. Where's my gong? Anybody remember the Gong Show from like the 80s and so on? Get one of them giant hooks and pull you off the stage.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Pilots terrain mesh. Okay, so it is nominally 65 euros. So that translates
About $80
to
roughly
about
US.
$90. Yeah. So about
Yeah.
about 80 US dollars. Okay, cool.
Okay, so it's a significant investment to
It's
begin
a
with.
significant investment that you've paid, and that's actually a reduced price from what it was originally. I know it was at least when I paid it, I paid 90 US dollars because I bought it at release. So instead, we're being asked to pay 16 euros. So that's what, $20?
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit more than that.
So I'm like, hang on a minute. I've already forked out a fairly significant chunk of change for this product,
Right.
which I own. And yes, these are extenuating circumstances, and yes, this is an unfortunate situation. But why am I paying again? And I get that. Okay, now again, I want to be very clear here that in our esteemed group here of three grumpy simmers, we have a musician, an artist, and two software developers. So we're very aware that if we don't get paid for what we do, we don't eat. So if y'all don't
Yeah.
buy the music, buy the art, buy the software legally, then we all don't eat. We don't get to experience new stuff in the future. We get that probably more than most. However, $20 seems a bit of a hefty investment to move it over. And again, I understand from a software perspective, Sergio, as you said, it's not necessarily an easy thing. But this is concerning to me because now I'm starting to wonder, what's going on here? Because to me, this seems like one company profiteering off another company's misfortune.
That was going to be my next question. So this $20, I'm assuming, is not being asked by the developer that emailed you.
Nope.
This is
So-
Sim Market that's asking for $20.
So
Get
it
this
says,
product off of their
and
site.
I am quoting verbatim from the email here. This code will reduce the total price to €16. As mentioned before, this small transfer fee is a requirement from the new store to host the purchase you made at the Flight Sim store and covers the download bandwidth and transaction handling. Basically, that's the profit margin. Basically, that's the profit that Sim Market would have made off you purchasing the product undiscounted.
Okay. So it's similar to Steam then. You know how Steam normally takes a cut off of
Yeah, they take
whatever it is
whatever
that they're
percent,
selling
yeah,
for a developer.
Yeah. So basically,
But they're loading that up front on the transfer?
mm-hmm. So
I was
Hmm.
you guys already know me, and I usually try to play devil's advocate on these matters. And I was actually I didn't know the content of the email until you read it here, and I was actually going to mention that this would probably cover bandwidth expenses since we're talking about a large bandwidth, but I don't think 16 euros is something cheap for you to pay
No.
for a download.
exactly.
And yeah, and I would expect, yeah, I could actually expect something. I understand, like you said, Tristan, we're software developers or artists, whatever, and we get paid for our work. And right now, what's happening is that the C market is not profiting from the sale, or would not be profiting from the sale if the developer would simply give it away. But I think they need to understand that this is not a regular situation. And what I could probably try to do if I was C market, this is my vision, and I have absolute no idea of their values. I could actually charge for a download fee, but I would probably only do it the first time the person would need to actually download it, right?
I would have been happy to pay. You know what? I actually would have been happy to pay €4.
$5.
$5.
Yeah.
I would have been happy to pay $5 because you know what? Again, I run a website. I get the cost of the download, the bandwidth. I get it. Again, we do. So I get the cost, and it's a bit of an odd situation. Yes, it sucks that this seems to be the only situation where the customer seems to be forced to pay to transfer. But you know what? I get it. $5, sure, no worries. It's a cup of coffee to me. I don't care. $20 though, that is literally another add-on.
Yeah.
That's another add-on.
Yeah.
It's the amount. Yeah. It's the amount of money they're asking.
Yeah. So I'm not complaining about the fact that I've got to pay. I'm complaining about the price, and I'm wondering. So this to me stinks of profiteering.
Here's the thing I don't get. The product itself, the initial product itself, is that similar to, your typical add-on where it's something you purchase, you download it, it's on your computer, you're good to go? Or is this something that needs like a continual update stream or something?
And this is the other part. This is interesting because it's not a continual update stream. So the installer has two parts. So you download it once. It's a massive file. It really is. It's massive because it includes, for those who don't know the product, as I said, it covers all of the ESP platforms, including FSX, FSX Steam, prepared in all its forms, and Flight Sim World. It covers the whole world in the highest terrain mesh detail available. It also includes bathymetry mesh for anybody who uses prepared V3 and 4 and submarines. By the way, I would really like to find somebody who's got a decent submarine add-on for prepared, just saying. Anyway, moving on. So you got the bathymetry data as well. So you've got an insane amount of content in here as well. Like, it's an insane amount of content. Now, what it does is that when you go to install it, what it'll do is you download it once, and then when you run the installer, it will run a check and see, are there any update files? So you don't have an ongoing subscription. It doesn't need to have an ongoing, it doesn't have to phone home at all. It doesn't have to have an ongoing activation server. Because, it does have an activation server, but that's the actual Pilots' website, not the store that you bought it from. So I'm kind of like, and this again was my second question of this one, is that Pilots have their own store. Why are they not hosting it there?
Yeah.
That's the other part that's confusing me, because, and this is the other thing that I want to get to, because I know it sounds like I'm picking on Pilots here, but actually I'm more directing this at Sim Market, because Pilots, to their credit, they actually offer that once you've completed that, once they receive the confirmation that you've repurchased it from Sim Market, they will actually give you a coupon to that value to use at Pilots' own store.
Yeah, okay.
They're trying, and I get. So this is why this is why my anger and frustration and my belief that it's a profiteering racket is directed at Sim Market, not at Pilots, because Pilots are genuinely trying. The only problem is that Pilots, quite frankly, guys, I love the work that you did on UMesh. I love the work you did on vector data that you sold to Orbix, but you've got one other product, and it doesn't interest me. You've got one other piece. You've got one airport.
So you got $20 for what?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, cool. I've got this voucher, and nothing to use it on.
There's no expiration date on this thing, right?
Yes, there is.
Oh,
February.
You don't say.
February 19. Sorry, January 2019.
Upcoming products that they have?
Within
the next 4 months?
To Pilots' credit, they do have one product that they've been showcasing for the last 2.5 years that I've been waiting for, but it seems to have been in development hell for at least that long. They've got a version of the Boeing Clipper, so I've really actually been looking forward to that. I got to play with it at Flight SimCon 3 years ago, like for the first one I was at, and it's been stuck in developer hell ever since then. So, but yeah, so Pilots, I'm not grumpy at you per se, because at least you're trying to acknowledge that, yes, you're trying to help the community, but Sim Market, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is profiteering, and that it makes me angry. It really does. So yeah.
No, I get you on that one. I mean, yeah, I can understand Sim Market needs to keep their doors open, but by the same circumstance, as we mentioned however many minutes ago, this is an extenuating circumstance.
Yep.
I really don't see the reason why there is a transfer fee when, they're already making money hand over fist.
Yep.
It's not like they're a really small website or a really tiny shop. This is something that's been the staple pretty much of the flight sim community for what, 20 almost years?
I'm pretty sure
They've been
since
around a while.
I think they are the longest running flight simulation store.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they are.
They're not hurting for cash, I don't think.
Yeah. And don't even get me started on some of the quality of some of the add-ons that they sell on there. But this also brings me to a more deeper concern, though. So, as I said, it concerns me that SimMarket seems to be doing this, but it brings me to a deeper concern. Is that, and it's funny. I've watched this pop up in a couple of forums over the years as well. Is that there seems to be this concern that as a community we're being rorted. And again, I want to revisit here that this esteemed group here are all artists. We rely on the goodwill and the purchases and non-illegal accessing of our content. So I don't say this lightly, but are we getting value for money?
That's a very good point, especially when I'm seeing, some add-ons coming out that price might be a little bit on the high side. I don't know.
There's one that it's like I saw there was a PC-24 released for X-Plane, which I was really excited about because I love the PC-24. I think it's an amazing airplane. It's a really cool airplane. And I think it was $35. And I looked at it and went, "What? You what now?" Like the exterior looks great. The interior.
And don't get me wrong, there are actually things that I think are, worth the money. For example, I just had that video yesterday about the TBM 900.
Yep.
This is the new standard. This one, yeah, I'm glad to pay that $65 for it because of everything that they've gotten it and how the developers have proven that they're actually advancing the way that flight simulation should be done.
And they're they're advancing how it's done, and the fact that they're so responsive to fixes as well. I mean, there was eight fixes inside the first week?
Within the first, literally one fix per day. And the next one is slated for this weekend, and it's going to be like a cumulative thing, everything that they've been working on, including some of the little VR tweaks that they need to put in there.
Yeah.
I've never seen a developer do anything so quickly. It's just crazy.
So yeah, I really wonder. And then we've got developers like, and I will name and shame Perfect Flight, that are still charging prices like the standard price that you pay for, for Carinado and for Aerosoft and for something that I wouldn't even pay freeware for. So
I can be honest and say I've never purchased anything that has a Perfect
Flight.
Name.
Anybody who's interested in that, please go through my channel. I reviewed the Perfect Flight Learjet 60 a little while ago. Yes, please, if you want to have an example of their work, an in-depth example, please go and have a look at that video. Anyway, so as I said, it's just a concern I have about where are we going, and there are large developers out there, and we will always use them as an example because PMDG and again, was it FS Labs? I mean, they're charging horrendous amounts of money for their aircraft. Now, they might be very highly accurate, but does that justify paying 4 or 5 times what your simulator cost?
Right.
So it's
for some people it does. That's why they keep on selling them. That's the thing. That's the thing.
It's the PT Barnum rule. Yeah, sucker born every minute.
Yep.
Look, it's like every other product that you purchase. If you purchase it, if you have enough people acquiring the product, they'll just keep the price tag high. It's unfortunately is the norm. But I think you're right in your concerns because I've been this, and I do understand something. And I think we all need to understand something, which is, there's inflation and there's the rise of prices of things over the years. And to be honest, I haven't seen a huge amount of price rises for add-ons for quite some time. But still, there are some developers practically doubling up the price of add-ons and not actually doubling up the quality of those add-ons at all.
Yeah.
That's. I understand that something like the TMDG 7 can cost.
Seven son of a seven
I don't
son.
know. I'm a helicopter guy. It has some sevens, so yeah. My airliners have little propellers on top, so I don't know. It has some sevens there, so yeah. So some of them have sevens, some have threes, so I don't know. Yeah, the big ones, tubes with wings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Greyhounds
We
as
get
well.
it.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah, yeah, you got it. Yeah, I understand that those are very complex pieces of software to develop, but still 100 and something euros for something like that.
Mm. Yeah,
Kind of. Yeah,
and this is look, and at the end
it's
of the day,
double. It's like I said, it's double the price of the sim. Come on, guys.
it's and a lot of this is always going to be it's in the eye of the beholder. If you
Yeah.
God, I spent a decade in sales. So it's about you get the emotional attachment. If you get somebody emotionally attached to something, they do not care what the price is. I get that.
Absolutely.
I get that.
Yeah.
But as I said, I just think it's a question that we as a community need to start asking more pointedly.
But the thing is, let me just. I'm sorry. You're talking, and I'm thinking about this, and yeah,
I've released a monster with the fact that Sergio's thinking about this stuff now. Yeah.
Kinda, this because this is something that I've been watching the community for some time, and it's a messy situation because I think there are two sides for this story.
Mm.
You do have the PMDG guys and the FS Labs guys and all the 7777s and 3333s aircraft that we talked about. Yeah, and I can kind of understand the situation with those add-ons. They are on a different tier regarding our hobby, and it's a completely new league. But the thing that kind of gets on my nerves, and I'm starting to see, is those smaller companies with smaller add-ons, with lower quality add-ons, trying to go after the prices, not the same prices, not 100 and something euros,
but they're still inflating their price to
yeah. They're trying to milk the community because they see these guys, selling these add-ons for so much, and they want to do it as well.
Yep.
They are not going to sell it for the same price, but they are trying to push the prices, to a level which
it shouldn't be
just way too high. Yeah,
and
I remember one add-on. I'm sorry, Tristan. I remember. I'm not going to name the add-on. You guys know the add-on. I don't. Yeah. You guys will know the add-on I'm going to talk about. And Drew, you were the one testing it.
If it's the one I'm thinking, I'm still testing it.
Probably.
It's not 100% in VR yet. It's still.
Yes. You were talking about we're talking about not the 7 or a 3. It's a propeller thing. Yeah. Okay.
No.
It's an aircraft. With wings, so it's not a real aircraft like those ones.
It's a frantic palm tree. It is not an aircraft. Anyway, moving on.
And,
I can't even with this guy.
I haven't tried it, but from what you said, it's kind of the same situation. It's not a PMDG level thing.
Right.
It's a study level thing, perhaps. But let's not use the study level thing.
Let's leave that to a whole nother conversation, shall we?
That's a whole new episode in which you see the three of us with you eyes, turn red with a little blood.
You watch a vein in my head pop out.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the examples of what I'm trying to talk about here, which is not these huge machines, huge complex machines, but something smaller that people are still trying to, extort. It's the right word, I think. They want to extort the community with. I think not all of them. And then we see the reverse. We see guys developing and releasing amazing freeware.
Yep.
Freeware.
Free, yes.
It's freeware. Guys actually doing great work for almost nothing.
Hmm.
or the guys from charity, from that charity software
Yeah, like five or
thing.
ten
Yeah,
dollar.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The
Yeah,
charity software stuff.
they're
Yeah,
charging. Yeah, they're charging £5 per
for
small
an add-on,
automatic
that's
drilling tool.
it's yeah, and it's reasonable
And it's not even
quality.
going to them.
Exactly, it
It's
all
It's
goes to
not
yeah,
even
charity.
going to them.
it's going to charity. So, but it's good quality. They are they
Mm.
are investing some time in doing something that they like, charging £5 and giving that money to charity.
And see, and that's where I think that I think developers really are missing. What I think is actually, I think developers have forgotten that they've forgotten that the market is a wide market. You've got people who've been and this is and I'm targeting this fairly and squarely, honestly, straight at tube liner flyers, straight up. I'm not even going to hide this. The vast majority are grumpy old men, with the exception of we fly GA workers. But no, the thing is, the fact is they are people who've been flight simming for the better part of 20 years, or 15, 20 years. They've got reasonably good financial resources, so they can afford to throw 150 US dollars at an add-on, and it's okay, and they've got the time to sit there and enjoy the depth of detail that's gone into that. But then there's another side of the market which is bigger and I think far more important, which is the developing, nurturing part of the community, which is it's the 14-year-old who's who's working, he's at school, he's doing a paper round on the weekend, so he's got $10 of pocket money to spend. He wants to fly. He wants to do something. He doesn't have the time or the inclination to go through an half-hour checklist before starting the aircraft. He wants to get in and experience the thrill, the joy, the passion of flying to maybe spark something into the future. That market right there is huge. And quite frankly, as somebody who works in professional flight simulation, the last thing I want to do is spend half an hour going through a goddamn checklist when I've been doing it for 8 hours. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to jump in something, right, cool, airplane's already running, I'm going to fly here. Because it's far away from what I've been dealing with for the last 8 hours. So, I think, so devs, if you're listening, have a long, hard think about this, because my concern is that both the community and the developers are leading our community down a bad path, to not extinction, because the hobby, the passion, it will never go away. But I'm concerned that we're reaching a tipping point where add-ons will be so expensive that the market will shrink so much that we will lose so many talented developers, so many talented software engineers, and so many talented just pillars of our community, because they go, the community's too toxic, the market is too toxic, it's too expensive, and they're just going to walk away. Yeah, I've seen it.
And if you recall correctly, that's pretty much our very first episode. We touched on that. It's all coming back around full circle.
Yep. And it concerns me, because and again, on a slight side note, it's why we lost two potentially very good simulators.
True.
Just throwing it out there, kids.
And even further to what Tristan's been saying as well, in particular for the developers, and especially new developers. Now, we all know we're living in basically what amounts to a new golden age of flight simulation, or at least it has a potential to be. We've got all these new developers that are crawling out of the woodwork. 2 weeks ago, I'd never even heard of Hot Start. Now I'm singing their praises for their TBM 900. And there's, so many other developers that have come up over the last few weeks or the last few months, and what I'm thinking needs to be done by these new guys coming in while you're, taking the time to hone your product, get everything picture perfect, and make it the new standard for XYZ sim, whatever sim it is that you're marketing it to.
Mhm.
Also, take the time to look around the community, listen to the people, understand what it is people consider, a fair price. Don't just look at, the guys that, their profile pictures, they're sitting there in a Mercedes Benz or something like that, because honestly, that's not the
Yeah.
future of flight simming. Those guys are going to get old and die eventually.
Yep.
Sad to say.
It's a
You
it's
still have
reality.
these
It's
young
reality.
kids.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got these young kids that are coming in there, and I always say it. Part of the reason why my YouTube channel exists is to inspire the younger generations to
Mhm.
get into it. That's why I make it a point to always respond to them and answer any questions that they have.
Yep.
I want the developers to start paying a bit more attention to that,
Yes.
and start to consider them when they start to consider
Yep.
balancing out how much it costs to make the thing versus how much the target audience are going to be able to actually contribute
There's
to
Because
their
there's
passion.
something developers need to understand. And I think the community needs to understand. Um, Flight simulation has been around for so much long, for so long, not because of Microsoft or Webinar Research or Lockheed Martin or whatever, but because of the community,
yes,
because of
Yep.
the add-ons. We had this
because of the
huge,
freeware content.
yeah,
Yes.
the freeware content and the affordable payware content.
Yeah,
You know, the
freeware and
payware, yeah,
affordable payware. That's
Mm-hmm.
why it's been around so
the
long.
payware that the
Yeah.
payware that you could actually, that those kids, those 14-year-old kids could, just save a little money and buy the aircraft of their dreams or the airport of their
Yep.
dreams
Right.
and fly around.
Yep.
That's the thing. And what is getting me very concerned is that these actions from the developers that are putting the prices up there are starting to strangle the community, and are starting to strangle our hobby in a way that it can reach a point in which things just get completely unrecoverable. We are living, I do believe, and I have written this on for Ellie Simmer about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I do believe we are living in the golden age of flight simulation. We have lived one when FSX was released. Things just were just well, FS9 and FSX were in between
Mm-hmm.
those two sims. When those two sims came out, we were living a golden age. The sim was amazing. New things were coming. A lot of developers were on the rise, and all of a sudden, Microsoft stopped after Microsoft Flight. They stopped developing the sim and selling the sim, but the community kept on going. And I know Laminar Research was still on the market, Explain was still on the market, but Explain was not even
It,
slightly as
it
big.
wasn't even it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't
It
even a
wasn't.
blip
It
on
wasn't
people's
even at a
radar.
position.
Yep.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. We cannot even put it on the same level that Microsoft Flight Simulation was back then. And what made Flight Simulation live and what made FSX live was the community,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
was the freeware developers, was the affordable payware developers, were the fact that people wanted flight simulation to continue and to strive.
Yep.
And what's happening right now is that that same portion of the community, the guys that make it all happen and make it all just kept going, are starting to strangle the community by getting products at a product that the price that a lot of people cannot reach it. And you're right, Tristan. The old guys, the old grumpy guys like us, were the 14-year-old guys back then
Yes.
Yeah.
that
Yes.
Yeah.
could not afford to buy a 747 or a 77777 or
Yep.
whatever
Mm-hmm.
for $100 or for $60 or for $50 or sometimes for even $30. We need those guys. We need those developers. We need the developers to understand this and to if
Right.
and if I do understand. I'm a software developer, guys, and Tristan understands this, and I know Drew understands this, even if he's not the software developer. Um, these things take time to develop, and you need to recover your money, but not at all costs. And to
Yep.
be very honest with you, to be very very honest with you, I would probably prefer to see a product be toned down but released at an affordable price than
Yep.
have all the bells and whistles and being released at a price that only 5 or 10% of the hobbyists of the community can afford them. It's not good
Yeah.
when this happens.
So yeah, I'm gonna round that out because that's a really good point. So I'm gonna round this out by saying,
Yep.
how many flights, how many airliner flights in the last 12 months have had an engine fire?
Is this leading to X-Blade 11.30?
Okay, yeah. But my point is that it's all well and good to say you spent thousands of
Right.
hours and developers' money and whatever on developing the exact procedure and the exact microburst of the flame retardant that will go into the engine should you have an engine fire. When
How often are you going to use it?
the most likely reason that your flight that when you're going on holiday is going to get turned back is going to be because the toilet stopped working, which you don't model.
True.
Anyway, so we're gonna round out this episode.
And instead, you could be fixing vortex ring states.
So
I'm sorry. I'm just still in awe and shock that after all of these years and doing Flight Simulator, my absolute favorite aircraft still remains Dino Cat and Nails free F-14 Tomcat. All the payware out there, that's still my absolute favorite.
T-45 Goshawk. Yep, not gonna lie. All right, folks. So thank you very much for joining us. He professional nagger right there. Anyway, all right, folks. Thanks very much for joining us. As I said, this has been an episode where we are very grumpy, but we want you to think about what we've said. Developers, please take note. Please look into your practices and have a think about how what you do, the ripple effect that has on our community. Because rightly or wrongly, institutions like SimMarket, what you do, the rest of the community watches and watches closely, and what you do has a serious impact on attitudes and our community as a whole. So you may not like the idea that you're a pillar of the community, you may not think you are, but we are all in this together, as it were, and people who have longevity will be looked up to, and what you do gets seen. So just think about that.
And you never take that for granted.
And
ever.
Yes.
So let me just I like to ask something to SimMarket. Well, they're not going to answer, but I like to
pose a rhetorical question. Yes.
Yeah. How many new loyal customers would they be getting if they were just, allowing licenses to be transferred for free to SimMarket? I mean, take
a once-off hit of maybe of these customers, and
I know probably a lot of the guys that have purchased on any other shop are also customers of SimMarket. Usually folks are customers of several stores, but how many new potential loyal customers could SimMarket be gaining by just letting them transfer over and just for free?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a worthy investment?
And again, it's a part of like how do you see yourself as part of the community? Do you see yourself as someone who profits off the community, or do you see yourself as part of the community? And I think that's a really
this is a time where the community needs help, and these guys have no way of reaching the product they purchased. They need help. It's not something that happens every day. It's
sort it out.
It's throw the community a bone, help them out, and then again, it's are you part of the community, or are you exploiting the community? Just a question. So
this can backfire. This can backfire. This can actually backfire.
And straight up, honestly, I will definitely be thinking twice before ever purchasing from SimMarket again. Straight up.
Not just you. A lot of people out there are probably thinking the same thing.
Because I will be thinking long and hard before. If I have an alternative available to me, even if it's slightly more expensive, I'm gonna be looking into it. So. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. So thank you to both of my fellow grumpy simmers. So thank you very much to Sergio from helisimmer.com.
Bye,
And
guys.
thank you very much to the purple hat wearing Belgio, still waiting for his F-18 Tomcat.
No. F-14 Tomcat, and it's coming soon. I already have it pre-ordered. I'm getting my Tomcat. I'm getting it this winter.
Folks, don't forget to head over to helisimmer.com and have a check out of some of all the awesome reviews and news for flight simulation and helicopter simulation. And of course, don't forget to check out Belgio's channel and all his activities, particularly some of his explorations heading through Orbix's new True Earth in Great Britain as well. And folks, my name's been NovaWing24. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget, as always, to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Alright folks, thanks very much. Take care, stay skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.